and Raghu on stage. And but they just run away. Raghu.
If anyone is standing outside, there's no space, they can come on the stage, sit with us, very close to us, so that both of us don't feel lonely here. Anyone who wants to come closer, let's sit in the middle. Should be gone.
Down and start the evening by Jen. Raghu has put together.
You have to hold the mic to your mouth.
I said he's put together a selection of images right from the mid-60s up till now. I thought that at least before we start our conversation, we could just sweep through that projection and then refer to it to the conversation.
But very quickly.
Very quickly.
Can you please kill that light? Kill that so it's not falling on the stage, please. Thank you.
My first picture that I ever took. And so on and so on. This is my early work before I joined any newspaper or magazine.
also Mr. Rai for this enormous privilege to have this conversation with him. We've been having many conversations in private, and in the last 5-6 years is when I really had an opportunity to get to know him. Our relationship in the early years of my own practice was slightly tricky, and I think over the last 5-6 years I've had a wonderful opportunity to get to know him, and I have to say he's the most affectionate and generous man that I've met. So I think we should start with at least the early part of his career, which I think might be of interest to all of you, because I see so many young faces, is Mr. Rai, as I always refer to him as in person, when we're talking to each other, so I'm going to continue referring to you as that. You wear success lightly now because you're comfortable with it. It's been 45 years or more. But tell us what it was like in the early years, when you were by yourself and you were all in your early 20s. You had come to stay in Delhi with your brother. And what was it like in those early years before Statesman, the 10 years that you were at Statesman?
Well, we were just a few of us, few photographers, who could count in fingertips. Even Pablo was there. And but the best thing about that era was that we used to meet up every second day, third day. Like Satinder Chadha from Times of India, who's retired now, Virginia. Raghu, I've got one photograph today, which I want to share. And he'll turn up, Bhavan Singh. Then, my elder brother Paul, who initiated me to photography, was a very amazing man on so many planes. He introduced me to Indian classical music. He introduced me to what is the best in photography, and who are the top photographers in the world, through various magazines like Photography Magazine, British Journal of Photography, US Camera Magazine, Popular Magazine, various magazines from Germany, from Japan, everywhere. So they were very, very, you saw the works of these photographers who were already there. It was such a powerful feeling that you felt tickled, excited, and challenged. And then Kishore Parekh was the chief photographer with Hindustan Times, and my brother Paul was chief photographer with Indian Express. And these two giants, they were, both of them were very different from each other, but very affectionate. And Kishore was in photojournalism, and will do sometimes just offbeat pictures, and Paul was engaged in doing, life, strange, funny situations. Sports he did very well with a lot of humor and fun. And then I was being born as a photographer between the two giants. Not at all in the sense that, like seeing works of other great photographers from the rest of the world, like Professor Andre Cortez, and these two guys, I had the privilege of being close to both of them. And then I started working with the Statesman newspaper. So now they became my rivals, both of them. So either I get sandwiched and crushed between the two giants, or the two giants, they push me up. So there were days when Paul had given a beautiful picture on the front page of Indian Express. There were days when Kishore Parekh's picture was so strong, and there were days when even my work was. And they will ring me up. share pictures, we'll work together, we'll have fun. But once you were in the field, they were like your rivals. But then we were few of us. And in news photography, we had the access and freedom to stay close to Indira Gandhi, our prime minister, anybody, everywhere. And of course now it's terrorism, all that, and we're 100 feet away. As they say, you're not close enough, your pictures are not close enough. But those years were very interesting. So the space was designed and decided. And when you go for a shoot, you say, oh my God, there's no space. But nevertheless, each time I went there, I didn't care whether it was small or whatever story it was. I'll do my best, come back, make a print of 12 inches with the 6 columns, and as I walk into his room, he look at the size of the print, he said, oh, I mean, we have small space. And so, look at the photo. But the best thing about this gentleman was that he tried to read the photograph and read every inch of space. And this is what matters. And he looked at the picture and he said, yes, it is very good. So shall we do it 4 columns? I'll say it's 6, this is 6 columns, not very big. So okay, 5 columns. So this is how you create space.
By the time you came to India today, you had honed that into a practice and were now dictating how many pages photography was going to get. Because that was the golden period for photo essays.
Well, you see, it's always, there's a big difference. You know, in a daily newspaper, daily news stories die a daily death. And I was also getting bored of this idea of doing daily news stories and be done with it. And then Arun Puri, I had known him much earlier, before he started the magazine. And then one day it turned out, he said, why don't we work together? Actually, in between, I worked with the Sunday magazine, where M.G. Akbar was editor. The difference was that it was edited from Calcutta. The distance was too much, I didn't have much control. So after a couple of years, Arun came along, then we started working together, and we had a great evening for India Today. That was the time when India Today was also finding its place, rightful place in serious journalism. Arun Puri was young, I was fairly younger. And then together, all of us were searching and experimenting and playing around with every story and invest the best that we can. So it worked for both of us very well and for India Today. So it was great innings with them. I had many occasions, I had many fights, and which was very obvious because nobody gives you space on a platter. And coming back to young photographers working with the newspapers, you know, this whole today they don't give you any space, and you know we have no control. You know, but the most important aspect of photography, the creative aspect of photography, is the fact that when you go to a situation and you engage yourself mentally, physically, spiritually with it, and you connect, and when the connection happens, it energizes you, you capture the moment, and when you come back, print the picture and show it to your editor, you are not alone, you are charged with that energy that you received from the situations, the truth that you have captured by engaging with the situation. So you are all powerful at that time, and you are charged. Nobody can stand the power of that charge.
But in contemporary times, and at least in the last 10-15 years, and I'm sure there must be lots of newspaper photographers who are working in photojournalism, the kind of freedom that you had, and I would say that Outlook had also in the 10 years that Vishal was working with them or more, that kind of freedom that photographers could have with the magazines is over.
Yeah, because let me tell you very frankly, it works both ways. The photographers themselves, first they have to understand this as well, that they are not doing it just as a mere job. If you go and take pictures, I'm sorry, many of the pictures that I have been seeing here in projection also, and some of the pictures in the show, listen, when people call me ruthless man, and I promise you, I don't spare the good eye, even one bit, when I have to deal with you. You see, the idea of a story, to work on the idea is fine. This is how we begin. And when you start following the details of that idea, the story, step by step, and start taking pictures, they become illustrations. They do not evolve into images. The idea has to be captured through the language of photography by capturing maybe the feelings around that idea they generate inside you. The best would be if you capture the vision of that idea. And when I said you are charged with it, you are not one. And when you meet the editor and editorial staff, the space gets created. It's very simple. And today, of course, infotainment is an ugly word for me because everything is being reduced to infotainment. And whereas digital technology is so fantastic and gives you so much freedom, it also gives you such round-biround, colorful stuff. And everybody is happy with those kind of pictures. So they're getting used to those colorful pictures pouring in from agencies, from photographers, from everybody. So everything looks alike, that there is no big difference. Because you haven't invested that energy and madness in exploring the possibility in any given situation. So when you come back, you don't blame the editors, and the editors are very busy. They think their pen is the mightiest hammer that they have. I used to tell them, in a newspaper or a page of a magazine, when you have text, is like brickwork. And when you give a vibrant, alive, wonderful picture of a situation, it opens a window to the world that you capture. So from the brickwork, you open up a window. So you have to have language, you have to have reasons, you have to have your way of conveying your strength.
When we look back at your early works, I've been reading and I've read it a few times, and even in our conversations, I get a sense that you always want to distance yourself from it. And I've read somewhere where you refer to your own works as decorative. You've referred to your own early works as decorative.
Yes.
But to a lot of people, and I think who've been looking at photography, the idea, the fact that you look at your early works as decorative, why are you creating this distance? Why are you disowning that? Because that's the genesis of everything that has been part of that journey till now.
I told you I'm not a religious man. Because, you see, at that time we didn't have magazines, we didn't have television, we didn't have internet, and we envisioned all the visuals, visuals in the world. And so, within your own country, in your own spaces, you were trying to do things which were strong and well composed and well built, and they communicated the story nicely. But when I look back, I said they were a little too static. They did not, beyond a point, they did speak the story from its various elements, but they did not warm my heart with that energy.
So, how how much of what you started with is something that you've carried with you? Because now when we look at your new color work, which is part of this festival, actually it took me by a lot of surprise when Prashant showed it to me, because suddenly the spontaneity with which you've been photographing for over 45 years, and now you have started working with the stage portrait, I was completely flabbergasted. You know, it's just something I never expected from you. I mean, why this departure? How did it happen? Because it's not something I ever thought that you even liked. You know, I mean, the idea of the stage portrait.
Yes, I feel most uncomfortable when I have to do portraits for any magazine or for my, if any friends ask me, you know, I tell them, you don't think that every trick I do is going to be great. And I feel very uncomfortable doing this because basically I'm a street photographer doing candid photography all the time. And then this idea was when I started buying old photographs, mostly taken against some background. So I started analyzing what is so special about almost every old portrait. The difference between the old portraits and portraits being done today in newspapers, magazines. And the big difference was that I realized that because of the slow cameras, slow lenses, slow films then, you had to put the camera on a tripod and give a long exposure. And you make the people sit still and almost breathless for a few moments. Now, you can ask somebody to stay breathless, don't breathe, but you can't tell the person that no emotions should travel in your eyes this way or that way. So the long exposure, the magic, the limitation of the magic it was doing was that they were sitting still and being exposed for a longer period, so their eyes had so much coming and going, so the eyes became very riveting. So I thought, you know, if I start doing similar portrait, it's no good. Like Dayanita has picked up doing portraits her way. And initially it was slightly influenced by, you know, she worked with Mary Ellen Mark, but finally the kind of portrait she's doing, she's evolved her own kind of style. And she's doing very different, which is very nice. So, you see, you have to, globalization is a recent phenomenon, but in any creative field, you stand in a global space and you got no choice about it. And you got to know, you got to understand what has been going on and what has been happening and how things are happening today and where you need to go. So, you know, the idea was, okay, very good idea, long exposure. But then, when you put a backdrop, you wanted the rest of the area where there was no backdrop, the light should carry on as it is. When you give long exposure, so you see a lot of movement in the background, those who are moving, and the people against the backdrop, their eyes were strong enough to hold you there, and then the rest of the movement around it. It's been bothering me, you know, when Sebastian Salgado came here 6 years ago, he was launching himself on this new project of the nature that he's doing, and I told him about this idea. He says, it's fantastic. You know. So you start on this and I'll start on that. But that man has spent 6-7 long years doing it on a regular basis, and I kept sitting on that. And I started doing it recently, and let me tell you, I feel so uncomfortable and restless to begin with when I knew that I have to set up all this, set up people in front of it. And the worst thing is, what I thought was going to be magical is the moment you put up a backdrop, people see it, everything comes to a standstill. And it's tiring. So I'm looking for new ways of doing it. I don't know how.
Certainly, you're marrying by leaving the performance that's taking place in front of your camera is one. The portrait is one, but then the rest of the background is life as it continues. But I'm talking about another level, which is the portrait in itself, the stage portrait in itself. Over the years, you've been critical of it,
Yeah.
right? And now this phenomenal effort, and you talk about the discomfort, or it makes you uncomfortable. What has led you into it? It's not so much about the old 19th century photography, but how are you going to take this further? I mean, are we going to see a new, are you going to move in this direction? Are you going to go back at some point to what you've always done? Or or we expect to see more of this?
I promise you, when I don't shoot for a few days, and then I have to start again, I dread going back to picking up a camera. And you're asking me about this project and where it's going to lead me. I've got no idea whatsoever. And also the fact is, you see, I have been shooting panoramics quite a lot in last 4 or 5 years, ever since I have taken on these digital cameras. There is no panoramic camera. So I have stopped shooting panoramic cameras. And then before that, for 5 years, I was very intensely involved in shooting only on panoramics. Now, why? Because, you see, in every medium, in every art form, there's a saturation point. We learned from the Western masters, as I told you, that we used to see and keep in touch with what's going on. Capturing a moment in space. So, hundreds of very good photographers from all over the world have been capturing great moments in space. So, capturing a moment in space was the slogan, and all of us have been following it. And then, as you know that I don't go around photographing everywhere in the world, because for me India is my whole world. So I realized that India, being such an ancient culture, such an ancient civilization where all the religions live simultaneously at the same time, India is a country where so many centuries have learned to live side by side. The experience of India cannot be a moment in space. It has to be multi-layered. So the image must have various moments happening at the same time. So that's why I started taking those panoramic frames, which almost take double the space than a normal camera. And similarly here, coming back to these portraits, I was exploring other possibilities. I am working on so many other themes which I have never done before. They enrich me, they energize me. I am not working on ideas, I'm working only on feelings, and they are taking me beyond myself. And I promise you that treasures are waiting to be explored. In which direction, when and where, as and when they touch me, I follow them. That's all. But I can never say that, oh, I'm going to be doing this. Tomorrow I might take another turn to, I don't know where.
No, I was only, insofar as the turn that you've taken right now is, I'm sure to a lot of people in the audience, it must take a lot of you, surprise you, because here's a man who's managed to reinvent himself after 45 years of making a certain kind of photograph, certain kinds of photographs, espousing a certain philosophy about photography. So it is something that is unusual, it is something that is startling. And to that extent, I'm wondering whether, the sort of, the spate of where contemporary photography in India is going, is that been at some level something that's also energized you? Because to my mind, when you started working and you talked about it, there were very few of you. Look at the audience in front of you. I think more than 90% of this must be people who are taking photographs or are deeply interested in photography. So does this generation, how does this generation and their work meet you? Because you must see so much of it.
when anybody asks me, how old are you? I say, my age varies from 17 to 70. Depends who I am dealing with. Why? Because these young minds and these young eyes which are exploring the same India where I also live, they fascinate me, but they also challenge me, they also leave me sometimes charged and sometimes dissatisfied. So,
In terms of what has charged you about photography in the last decade,
you see, when I
what
see,
has charged?
I see so many photographers, young photographers, and so much, excitement in their eyes, and they want to know and they want to explore, and they want to go on. It's so wonderful. And you have this, what is happening today in India is wonderful thanks to these two guys. But certainly, again, the gaps in between, I see.
What are those?
Well, the gaps are very frankly, listen, the story ideas and the ideas. If you don't aim for the stars, you won't even touch the ceiling. So the story ideas, let me tell you something. They say a good picture is worth 1,000 words. Very interesting. We used to love it. 1,000 words. Wow, one picture. I say 1,000 words can be a lot of noise. How about some silence? For me, the greatest work of art, whether it's movie, whether it's music, whether it's a painting, a great piece of writing, is the one which restores silence, which fulfills you as a human being. Stories have been told and retold, and photojournalism needs to be done on different levels. But don't get trapped by the ideas. Go and live beyond the ideas, and that throws a challenge and a responsibility upon this guy who still stands right next to you. And I am not going to give up. Whatever that means.
You talked about silence and how it restores you, and you expect that of photography and any great work of art. And that is something that's been a
Yeah,
recurring.
and I like to explain this. You see, the ideas and the needs and the wants, they are making a noise inside all of you young minds. And you want to be something. That's not the purpose, and that's not the way to be. Because that keeps you away from here. Everything is being plotted here. And you have agenda. Okay, let me go back to the first picture if you can show. Now, you see, I went with my brother's friend to take, he was going to his village. I was not doing anything. I was not a photographer. So I asked my brother, give me a camera. He loaded a film, he gave me the camera. And I went with my brother's friend, Yug Joy, very wonderful man. Because his energy was good, he was a wonderful man. I thought, since I'm not doing anything, I'll do it. So I went to his village with him. He was taking pictures, and I was just standing and watching. And what I'm going to show you here is something very precious. Because I had no liability to do anything, to be a photographer. So he was taking pictures. It was late evening, children, old lady standing there, laughing away, things happening, and I was just watching. And as I turned to the other side, I saw this baby doll. And this was out of feeling, just a response. And later one would realize that all that you do with feelings, an intuitive response is something so precious which lives beyond any idea. Even when I was with the newspaper or India Today magazine and editorial meetings, I used to tell my photographer friends, Prashant was part of it, that do listen to the editorial needs of the story. But once you go into the situation, forget about everything. you explore that situation all over again for yourself, so that your intuitive energies are at work. Because if you are burdened with the idea is a dangerous thing. And
But you know, when you say that if you're burdened with an idea and that is dangerous,
बोलना कोई आसान बात नहीं है। शेर मैंने अपने अर्ली ईयर्स में सुना था, तो मुझे बहुत इंटेंस, बहुत लाजवाब लगा। I hope everybody understands. Yeah? I am not bound by the fact that the blood runs through my veins. In any case, blood runs through everybody's veins. You know? So he said, I'm not bound by the fact that it runs through my veins unless it drips from my. So that's the intensity. And they say he used to write a lot. And he will tear off 80%, more than that, what he would write, and share very little with the people. And that's why all that he's written in that century, many, many centuries ago, is so relevant, so powerful. And today also it energizes people like us.
now we look at what's happening with the photo festival. We have photography galleries in Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore, and we're hoping there will be others that will open. So there are a lot of avenues for younger photographers that were absent, let's say, 35 years of your practice. How do you think this has changed the landscape, or where do you see it's going?
Well, it's a very, very...
Because you and I have had lots of discussions about it, and it makes you somewhat uncomfortable. Some things make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, because the journey is happening. That is very important for sure. But you know what is unfortunate? That because the minds in today's time, fast food generations, fast food cameras, fast food, everything is available. You click and you print a picture within no time. And all this is, making us lose our depth. And I remember one of our photographers, when we were at the forum, he used to say, every picture that I take has a story to say. Sure, everything can be analyzed and, concocted into a story. But that's not the purpose. And today you have endless equipment off the shelf, which we never had. Even if we had to get a new lens, we'll ask some friend to smuggle it out for us. So all those possibilities are there right in front of you.
But you embrace this technology which has changed the way you photograph. So, it's almost as if I can hear you sort of bemoan the fact that today, as much as you love this new technology, you've taken to it like a child.
Absolutely.
And it's changed the way that you photograph.
Absolutely.
Your early pictures were quiet, to my mind, not decorative. And the later pictures are all very animated. And that's entirely possible because of also all the technology you're using.
Of course, I love this technology. In fact, I had an assignment from one of the magazines to do a story on Bombay. That was about 6, 7 years ago. And I had bought a first camera which was just 6 megapixels. At that time, it was only 6 megapixels. So, first day in Bombay, I was carrying my film cameras and also the digital. I said, okay, let me begin with digital. And when I get my concentration, I'll start shooting with films. I promise you, that moment and today, I have never been able to go back to using film cameras. And the biggest thing in digital technology for me was I am an impatient man. You know, tomorrow we are going to release a book on Magnum contact sheets. They've done a big book, you know, Magnum Photos. And they asked me to send some of my important pictures and the contact sheets. Can I tell you that I don't have ever printed one contact sheet? Because I was a man in a hurry, I didn't have the patience. I tell you, each shoot, I go back and my guy in the darkroom has to be available, process the film, dry it right now. And that is the privilege digital technology gives. I click it and I see it right now and I watch my steps. You know, like a painter, with each stroke of his brush, he knows where he's going. What wonderful. I mean, at least I feel I'm reborn as a photographer. And in color, you color correct right there and then. And whether this light or outside on a street at night, anywhere you see some magical things calling you or winking at you, you take up your camera, you do the photography and you capture the moment. Where was that available in those days?
So what you're saying is that the immediate gratification is what excites you. But what would you say to all those people, and there are lots of young photographers and other photographers who are still using film? I mean, they use it because they love it, they love the printmaking,
Sure.
they love the dark.
No, I saw yesterday two photographers being given films to use. You know, one of our young photographers said it very rightly, and I agree with him 100%. But anybody is free to use anything they want. That is technology, this is technology. If you want to punish anybody, give them the film. I promise you today, if anybody asks me to shoot on a film, I'll die. When you have the freedom, you know, the kind of freedom digital technology gives you is unbelievable, unbelievable. And above all, you know, you've spent the whole day taking pictures, and when you're going back to your hotel or your room, wherever, on the way, you throw the shit out, delete all the bad pictures and go home with the feelings and the nice moments which enrich you and energize. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful work. And let me tell you, I used to be a good printmaker myself, darkroom printmaker. But I hated spending hours making prints. And today it is, you know, my early years, my exposures and everything used to be, I didn't care. I had to get the photograph, under, over, anything didn't matter. And some of my best pictures, even I have lost the negatives, and some of my best pictures, the negatives are so bad that I will make 10 prints, 9 prints, 11 prints to maybe pick up one which is barely okay. Now the same negative, when I scan, touch it up, and you press the button, a flawlessly beautiful print comes out.
So for someone who's embraced this technology and is totally contemptuous of film now,
If anybody wants to go, देखिए, in creativity and in madness, there are no principles involved. Anybody could be doing anything. And that's my way of looking at it. And that's the way I want to do. When I say these young guys give me an edge every time, they charge me up, they drive me mad, they make me feel wonderful. Everything put together is magical.
but do you think that all the work that you've done, I mean, I'm talking about work before you picked up the digital camera, the idea of making photographs, not knowing what you had, but enjoying the experience of making the photograph. I mean, can you compare that to the kind of pictures you're making now, where you actually look at everything that you're photographing while you're photographing it? I mean, could you make the pictures of the musicians, portraits of the musicians with the digital medium now?
It would have been really wonderful and greater control and better quality, and I would have done many more pictures. Because film over 400, triacs, or even high speed, killed the brain killed everything sometimes, you didn't want to do anything. So, there's a big difference what one is doing today. You can't compare it. Okay. One thing is there, I do not believe in nostalgic nonsense. Some people say, oh, remember we did this. Some people say, remember we used to do this, we used to have great time. Honestly, I have forgotten almost everything. Because what I am living today is so wonderful, so fulfilling, and so powerful. तब मैं बुद्धू बच्चा था, तब मैं इतना देखता था। अब मुझे सारी दुनिया दिखाई देने लगती है। मैं पागल हो जाता हूँ, मुझे रातों में नींद नहीं आती आज भी। आज ही रात को नींद खुल जाती, मैं जाग के सोचता हूँ कि कैसे करूँगा, क्या होगा। ऐसा है। हमारे किशोर भाई तो बड़े फनी आदमी थे, वो एक जोक सुनाते थे, कहते जब बरसात होती है तो गधा जो है कमज़ोर होने लगता है। क्यों? कि वो सोचता है इतना घास मैं कैसे खाऊंगा। तो मेरे सामने मेरा देश इतना बड़ा ऐसे पड़ा है, पल्सेट करता हुआ कि मैं क्या करूं, मैं लुट जाऊं।
Before we end tonight's discussion, I must point out something to you that I have noticed which makes Mr. Rai the most unique of all photographers. And I see this because I'm working behind the scenes, whether it's with exhibitions, museums, etc. Any opportunity to exhibit in India, he is always ready to go anywhere. He's the only photographer I know who gets an invitation to go anywhere abroad. There could be a retrospective at any museum, and a major museum, and he starts to get nervous. And I always asked him, why do you hesitate to take your work outside?
She pushes me, she sends me away. Really.
No, but what is it that doesn't want you to travel your work, expose your work outside? And it just, it's unusual, because most photographers would love the opportunity to take their works anywhere, everywhere.
I am a little bacha, I am a little baby, and my mother India. Now, don't mistake it with anything else. My mother, to stay away from my mom is so difficult that I miss her. And then imagine if I've spent 15 days or 10 days traveling in, like I went to London, Paris, Berlin. I enjoyed it, no doubt, and I had great fun and great time with people there. But imagine if I shoot for those 15 days, I'll be a better, fulfilled and richer person doing my exploration. But let's see just one or two pictures which I like to share with young people. Yeah, this one. Now you see, in the beginning I had just a standard lens, and that picture was taken with a standard lens, baby donkey. I was standing on the roadside, I was walking, I saw these sparrows. They were picking grains. So I pointed my camera and I thought to myself, yes, interesting, but not enough. And I am standing and waiting. Why should I take a picture? And suddenly this blackbird lands. And the moment that blackbird lands, these sparrows, they go, they leave that space around that blackbird. I click a photograph and the bird flies away. Now you see, this is something which I believe from inside of my everything. That nature, supreme energy, or God, or Allah, Christ, or whosoever you believe in, has got treasures waiting to be explored by anybody and everybody. Only thing is, you do not make yourself available mentally, physically and spiritually and wait. And when you wait, nature provides. And nature blesses you with such moments that you can't even imagine. Let's see the next one. Well, this is a very common thing in the textured landscape, early morning scene. This is also obvious subject matter which looks attractive, the next one. Now this picture also I took very instinctively. I was, strange feeling inside me that all these people walking, moving in tongas, pushing carts, bicycles, whatever. I mean, there was such a crisscross of energies, and today I can say that, today. But that time I just clicked it. So wherever this photograph went, it got published. But then again, it was very instinctive response to all the crisscross of energies. The next one. You see, I was shooting, when I was doing my first book on Delhi, Jama Masjid area used to be my favorite place. So I would walk around, and there was one MLA from that area. One day he met me, his name was Saeed Bhai. He says, I see you walking around here taking pictures. What are you doing? I said, I'm planning to do a book. He says, come, I'll take you to a place. He took me to his house, which was right above the range, from where you could see Jama Masjid and the old city. And the other side, you could also see Connaught Place and new buildings coming up. So I was shooting, there was life on the rooftops, evening time, people flying kites, people, enjoying themselves, sitting on the rooftops, nice weather, end of August. So I took lots of pictures. And I said, oh God, nothing worthwhile. So, the lights, evening lights have come on. So I was coming down with my 28mm lens on my camera, and suddenly through the window I saw this. And then now these are the gifts of nature. When you wait and when you invest, then nature provides you. Thank you.
Wish you many more words of photographing the same intuition and enthralling us as you have for so many years.
Thank you, Deepika, and thank you everyone for being so patient. Actually, we should have a little interaction.
Yes, so we can take some questions.
And please feel free to ask and say anything. This is how we have to live like creative people.
Back here.
Raghuji, I'm repeating a question which I asked in Chandigarh long time back, sometime back in the Lalit Kala Academy, Delhi. Jatin Das was with you when you asked him a question that painters and artists, they keep repeating each other themselves, and once they find one style, they keep on repeating that same style. And why do you keep on painting again and again and again after so many years? And can I ask you the same question? You've been photographing for the last more than almost 50 years. Then what makes you, do the photography again and again now? What is new which you're discovering?
Is Jatin Das here? No.
He was.
कहाँ? जतिन प्लीज आ जा यार, प्लीज कम। देखिए ये मेरा पुराना, मेरे जान का दुश्मन है। और once in Lalit Kala Academy, they have a program where they invite the artists and they ask the artist, who would you like to interact with? And he proposed my name. Please, Jatin. Yeah, you have to say a few words in response. Please, yeah, walk in. So I asked him. Actually, there was another lady with us, Sheshudra Dalma, who's a kind of historian in the world of art or whatever. So I said, why don't you ask him the question? I am not educated enough. She says, no, you ask. So I didn't know what to ask. So I asked him, I said, after 45 long years, why must you go on, pick up a brush and start painting? Why must you paint again? I don't know what happened, he got upset with me. Now this friend of mine, Diwan Mana, is putting the same question to me, but I can give you many answers. First of all, it is none of your business. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Raghu was a singer before he became a photographer. So tell him to sing a song now.
I will if you come and sit with me. Okay. Second, I'll say that when I started putting a camera here on my eye, and after a few weeks of doing it, I started realizing that each time I put a camera, I look through it, I can take a concentrated look at the world. The world comes into focus. But as Henry Cartier-Bresson puts it so beautifully, he says, when you're looking through the viewfinder with one eye closed, one eye which is looking through the lens is looking at the world, the closed eye is looking inside. What a beautiful thought. So, that process of exploration into the world. And second thing, why I need to go on taking pictures, is that the world, life and nature is ever changing. And you look back, it's not the same again. You thought you've done it. And when you turn back, it's not the same again. And that power that life generates. In fact, sometimes newspapers, magazines, they ask you, what book are you reading? I do read once in a while some book or the other, which, depends on what madness I have at that moment. But there's one book I keep reading all through, is a book which never begins from anywhere, which never ends anywhere. And that is life. And I tell you, the most precious thing is, like young photographers, another hurdle that we have is that we want to take good pictures. We have ideas. And I have gone through this period that shoot, come back and look at the next and you say, oh, nothing has happened. Because you don't soak in, you don't go through the experiences, and you have the ideas. And above all, the worst thing in photography today, the biggest computer which is installed here, with all the memory of the world that you can store here, every picture, most pictures get taken from that memory. And they look like somebody else's pictures. If any young person asks me, give me one point which will make me do better work, I'll say, don't take all those good pictures which are stored here in your computer. And then you'll be free of that heavyweight champion and nature will open up new space for you. And
Prashant,
Amen, Rakesh.
here, you're back.
जी, बड़ा ऑब्वियस सा क्वेश्चन है मेरा, बहुत ज़रूरी। आपका बहुत ज़्यादा काम हम सब लोगों ने देखा है, आज का भी और पहले का। आपको खुद को कौन सा काम ज़्यादा पसंद है, आपका पुराना या आज का कंटेम्प्रेरी जो आप कर रहे हैं, और वो क्यों?
देखिए, माफ कीजिए, गुस्सा। देखिए, एक बात समझिए, stories are told and retold and will be told through various media. But work of art or creative work is something, even if you come tired and you see an image which has the vibrance, imagination and power to grab you. It energizes you. The works of art, the creative aspect of any field is that it should energize you. Looking at most of the pictures, they put me to sleep. I die. But why I say this? Because please wake up. Go beyond ideas, go beyond yourself, go beyond all the images you've seen before. Screw them all. And do it your way. I remember you, Swapan Parekh. Swapan, are you there?
Almost.
Hi. Now, he's a sweetheart, wonderful guy. He does commercial work and then he takes off on his own and he does his own imagery of his kind. You know, when his dad, Kishore Parekh, we were great friends. And Kishore Parekh was shooting in Himalayas for his project and he had a heart attack and he passed away very young, in 50s. So I was in Bombay when Swapan was 15, 16, I think. And his grandmother, a wonderful lady, and she said, Raghu, Swapan is also, he wants to take pictures. He started taking pictures, something like that. And why don't you make him like you and like Kishore? So, now the important point is, I said, we used to call her Ba, and wonderful, warm, loving lady. I said, Ba, I can do anything for him, but I would not like to make him like Raghu Rai or Kishore Parekh. He has to be Swapan Parekh. So these moments are very precious to understand. And also, let me tell you, by doing experimentations of all kinds of odd subject matters, just to be different is not. You see, also some people follow the styles of some Western photographers who are very successful in the West. I also admire many photographers' works from abroad, but to inflict that style on a situation in your own country is a painful thing. You see, if you invest yourself so completely, nature will give you your own style of doing things and do magical things your way. So, when I look at my work, coming back to your question, whether it was taken in 1970s or 80s or today, if I am doing a lot of editing, re-editing of my old work and putting together many things, and I fill in the gaps by going and shooting the same subject all over again with new energy, with new ideas, whatever. And the only way to process that is, does that picture still has the current and the power to wake me up, to energize me? And if today anybody asks me the next question, which is your best picture? Well, I am a product of all these big and small moments that I have lived through, And you can't say this building has, this brick is the most important brick in this building. So, everything matters and nothing matters. If it doesn't energize, if it doesn't enrich the writer in today's context. Everything else is information. And information, we are not photographers giving out just information. So you have to choose whether you want to be this or somebody else.
Raghu, this is Ram.
Ram.
I just, when we were talking about being energized right here and right now, as Devika said, even I was startled to see your new work.
Ji.
But it energized me so much that that's why I was yelling for the mic. And I think there's something that I find very interesting. Devika was asking you if you have been looking or energized by younger photographers' work. But the fact that you have gone back to looking at 19th century studio portraits, but how you have worked with that, with your energy and your seeing, and fused it with your street sensibility, I find quite remarkable.
That's a very nice point. Street sensibility.
And
I can't see your face because of
No,
the
I'm
light.
in the dark. You don't have to see it. But
I shall be upon you very soon.
But I mean, this is it's just a spontaneous reaction. But I think what you have done with the backdrop, its context, how it is working in the space, this strange thing of a formal aspect of photography coming into the totally informal, and yes, working with that digital magic, I think is remarkable, and I think it's a many layered work. And I'm I'm fascinated that you went back to 100 years ago and have come up with something which is completely now.
Thank you, Ram. You added very nice word into it, into my vocabulary when I do this kind of work. But let me tell you another feeling, that sometimes when I go to bed and I put my head on the pillow and I'm looking into, I don't know, vacuum or where, sometimes I feel, oh God, I have lived centuries, I am tired. And I have missed out so much. And really, that's why this feeling is so amazing for me, because I think that since I shoot only in India, and when I go through the situations where I see layers and layers of life and complexities, where the unseen, the unknown emerges to de-emerge, to disappear, and the helplessness of the technology sometimes, and the helplessness of the man not being enough for that situation. And of course, next day when you wake up, you want to explore the world yet again. And that is the most magical thing, to come back to that and to the answer being a photographer. But I promise you next time. And I know, my agenda on this planet is not complete, and I know I'm coming back to this planet again, but I tell you, I will not like to be a photographer.
Hello, Raghu. This is Miss Tri-X.
Hey! Dear Rita! Hi.
I always had the impression from my own practice that photographs reveal themselves at different times.
Yeah.
And works of mine have emerged from my old negatives, old contact sheets, because I didn't recognize the significance of that image at that time.
Right.
And you are also going back to your earlier work on film and re-looking at it, and possibly finding images that you hadn't noticed before. You were talking about digital, and you said how at the end of the day you just press delete and get rid of the trash. But that trash is so subjective, no? What is trash today could become a classic a few years later, depending on the context or the way that you're thinking of it. And I thought this might be something interesting to discuss with the audience, this thing of delete and digital. Because that strikes me as, that is my concern with digital.
No, you don't have to delete it. You can carry everything home. That's entirely your choice. But the fact is, wait a minute, I'll say that 99% of the situations. But I'll put it in two categories, going back to my work. One is that, you see, I was doing a story for a magazine and I was working on that subject. And in between or while going to that situation, on the way, I was also shooting instinctively what touched me. And now, you see deadlines in the magazines and newspapers, you come back, you print, you select your negative, you make prints, you make a story, you give it to the editors, and next day again you're off, you shoot something else. And those moments which had just a little whisper, they whispered in your ears and in the ears of your heart, and you clicked them, and you never printed them. You see, but they will never get deleted. You know why? Because they carry their own current. And invariably I have seen, when I delete, I delete the obvious rubbish that we keep doing. And you see, I also say that more than 80% of what we shoot is repetitive or rubbish, or even more than that. And because वो जो है ना कि ज्यों की त्यों धरदीनी चुनरिया कि मैले होके नहीं गए यार अपने काम से, अपने माइंड से, अपने बोझ से, carrying hundreds of images. Sometimes people say, oh, I have taken 15,000 pictures. It doesn't matter whether you've taken 50,000 or 50 million or 5 images, but what you share with each other should have the power and the courage to stay alive. And the process of deleting images is a cleansing process for me, Anita, and I do it madly and vibrantly and angrily because I am ruthless when I'm doing it. Sometimes maybe if you see that is gone with it, some great image, well, that was not to be mine, and it doesn't matter. And also, I am not the kind when I am shooting with all the concern and sensitivity or whatever. But once I have shot and printed and maybe shown it to friends or done in a book, I have, spent maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks editing a book, and so passionate and so excited. And once the book is gone and printed, it's like the baby's been delivered, and you are finished. And nothing matters. Nothing matters. You are done and over with the damn thing. And I don't carry my work like, oh, this is my work. It's done and it's here. So it doesn't matter. Some things we win, some things we lose, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It doesn't matter.
Mr. Raghu, good evening.
Good evening.
Campus here. I have to share a few things with you. I'm feeling privileged to go for shooting with you in Calcutta. Hi. So I would like to share my experience with the audience.
No, you can only share, you can ask the question.
I really want to share shooting with Mr. Raghu in Calcutta because when publishing a book on Calcutta, we felt some of the subjects are missing from the book. So we called for a shoot. And after the shooting is complete and the book is published, I went to Calcutta again and showed it to some of my friends and critics in Calcutta. My feeling of a person like Raghu has been described by a corporate manager called Dhruvajothi Nandi from Calcutta. He wept like 5 minutes seeing the Calcutta book. He said nothing can be described Calcutta better than Raghu.
Because I have got a donkey with me.
Thank you, sir.
देखिए, अगर आपका प्याला भर गया तो चाहत कम होने लगती है। और जो बड़ी बात है किसी भी क्रिएटिव प्रोसेस में वो ये है, टुडे यू बीन थ्रू अ ग्रेट एक्सपीरियंस एंड टेकन सम पिक्चर्स, बट दोज सम पिक्चर्स दैट you've taken are not the entire experience in its entirety, and that's the gap. And by the time you've gone home and thought about the experience, your thinking process has evolved and you've learned more about the situation, and that gap and that hunger keeps you going.
Raghu, this is Swapna here,
Hi, Swapna.
and sitting next to Veronica.
Can't see.
I just wanted to ask you one question. Repeatedly, you've been saying that you have to be ruthless with yourself and in your work.
And पड़ोसियों के साथ भी.
Depends, yeah. If they misbehave. When you say ruthless, but anyone who's known you, I think inarguably, if that's a word, you're the most wonderful and sweetest person that could have crossed their lives. So how do these two people coexist in the same person? Ruthlessness on one side and the other extreme is one of the most sweetest people you could ever come across and the warmest individual that could cross anyone's lives. So is there an internal clash at any time? Internally, do you feel something because when you're out there, when there are two people that coexist in the same person?
No.
How do you deal with this internally?
No, there is no clash, because basically हमारी हिंदी में जो एक्सप्रेशन है, मैं दर्शनाभिलाषी हूँ, मुझे दर्शन की आशा है, तो उसी में एक्सप्लोरेशंस, उसमें शेयरिंग, उसमें कभी फुलफिल होना, कभी थोड़ा, कभी कम, कभी ज़्यादा, वो जो एक्सपीरियंस है जीने का कि वो प्याला कभी नहीं भरता, और वो जो दर्शन की अभिलाषा है कि अगर आप मुझे सच पूछो तो मैं एक तस्वीर अपने देश की खींचूं और मेरा पूरा देश उसमें रिवील हो जाए, कभी नहीं होने वाला। और ये जो बात है, ये जो एनर्जी है, that's what makes me ruthless, at least with myself. And when I look at others' work, I can't admire unless it touches my soul. And as I said, the current, the magic must happen, and it must energize you. कि संगीतकार, when they play the music, what do? Through their tapasya, they connect you with the supreme energy, and we say, wow. And there have been moments when, Ali Akbar Khan Sahab says, मैं राग बागेश्वरी बजाता हूँ, और वो Ali Akbar Khan Sahab was such a serious looking man, he'll close his eyes, put his head down and start playing. And while he's playing through, conscious mind, okay, if he's playing Bageshwari or Darbari Khanra, it has its own parameters, it has its own swaras. And then playing it, coming to a moment of concentration, and from concentration going to a moment of meditation where he comes and plays the swar for you. And then he's playing and he opens his eyes and he wants to see what happened. ये दर्शन है संगीत के थ्रू। फोटोग्राफी तो देखना इज अ दर्शन, और वो दर्शन, लेट मी टेल यू, आई हैव सीन पीपल हु गेट जेलस ऑफ ईच अदर्स वर्क, and if somebody has captured an intuitive, powerful moment, and me as a jealous person, when I don't acknowledge it, you know what I'm doing? I am denying myself the privilege of connecting myself with that supreme energy that worked through that intuitive response. So, ये वो दर्शन हैं जो फोटोग्राफी में होते हैं, और ये वो दर्शन है जो हम सब ले सकते और दे सकते हैं, और उसी की भूख प्यास में हमारा इंसान कहीं का कहीं पहुंचता है। तो ये रूथलेसनेस, ये दुनिया की बातें, ये एक बताने की बात है, एक्सप्रेस करने की बात है पर उसके आगे क्या होता है इज अनदर मैटर. ज़्यादा मत पूछो, ये दिलों की बात है.
I'm just taking over from where Anita left on the religious front. Not exactly what Anita was saying, but since you printed your prints a lot of times, don't you feel that the learning curve that was there in the classroom somehow is missing so that we picture as reality today as human being? But I think that learning curve that was there in the classroom,
learning curve.
or the learning that was there in the classroom,
जी.
to which
नहीं.
somewhat missing here.
नहीं. If you are missing, then don't go back to digital. Keep making yourself. Please, feel free. ये कोई बात नहीं है. ऐसी कोई बात नहीं. I feel actually, for me, the sky, as they say, the sky is the limit. For me, the sky is, you have to go beyond the skies. And for me, when I photograph human situations, the sky plays equally important role. And when we were using film, the sky will get burnt out, printed, it will have halo around the people. And today in digital technology, the way you fill up the space and touch up the space, flawless. We couldn't do it that way.
It's the end of the Q&A, and I'd like to thank Raghu Rai for being so generous with his time and his feelings, and for entertaining us with his visual